Exclusive contracted novel by Feilu Novel Network. People write diaries on the broken iron, and all the female leads collapsed. Suyuan traveled to the world of broken iron and obtained a diary system, which made him stronger by writing a diary every day. So Suyuan began his journey of exposure, and the characters in the entire world of shattered iron began to die in various ways. Looking at Suyuan's diary, a series of embarrassing secrets were exposed, and all the female protagonists lived in Bungbu. March 7th, unexpectedly, Dan Heng's identity turned out to be holding the Ming Dragon Lord. Star. Uncle Yang has such a past, let's call him Yang Chaoyue in the future. Kafka. How did he know the information of each member of the Star Corps Hunter? Bailu. I didn't fight with my tail. Mirror flow. Suyuan, don't let me find you. The direction of the world of broken iron is starting to crumble. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Man is breaking iron, revealing Aida. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Black Tower Space Station, Containment Cabin Section. At this moment, Suyuan was leisurely fishing. As the saying goes, there is no pleasure in fishing at work. Instead of working hard as a laborer, it is better to become a salted fish and earn some salary. Although saying so may seem like Suyuan, the interloper, is particularly awkward, it is also something that cannot be done. As a working social animal on Blue Star, Suyuan's few hobbies in his past life were playing games of the Mi family, and the collapse of the Star Dome Railway was one of the least enjoyable games. As a result, Suyuan would never have thought that one day he would also come into the game he often plays. I thought I would become the dominant force of Long Outyen in the universe, and at the very beginning, I would travel with the protagonist's exploration train in the vast starry sky. However, when I first crossed over, I happened to catch up with the Black Tower Space Station and was invaded. A soldier almost killed him, and even now, he can see the shadow of his golden finger. Fortunately, Suyuan was taken in by the kind-hearted Aida and worked as an ordinary porter in the Black Tower Space Station, which allowed him to barely survive in this world. Ding! The system damage has been repaired and the host is being rebound. The sudden sound startled Suyuan. He thought he had been caught fishing again and immediately sat up straight with a carp. As a result, he looked at it for a long time and there was no one around. What's the situation? Is it difficult for me to hallucinate? Suyuan muttered to himself. No, I usually eat and sleep well, so there's no reason for me to have hallucinations. Ding! The host has been successfully rebound, and the diary recording system is being activated. Ding! Activation successful, detected good host status, ready for task at any time. This time Suyuan finally found the source of the sound, and this masculine electronic sound was actually coming from his own mind. I'm being obedient, is it because the system that I came late has finally arrived? Suyuan thought excitedly, and the next second, a white diary appeared in front of him, with a few big characters written on it. Suyuan's diary. He suppressed his excitement and began to check his system. Ding! It has been detected that the host has received the diary and can record it at any time. Today's record goal. 2,000 words, task reward. 1 chance to draw a prize. He opened his diary and immediately started writing vigorously on it. At the same time, after the first encounter with Fengrao Xuanlu, Xing looked at the Cloud Cavalry army on the immortal boat calmly carrying out the planned plan, and felt a slight sigh of relief in his heart. It's so close, Xing. Did you see that the giant deer just now didn't get hurt no matter how hard it was hit? It scared us to death. On the side of March 7th, there was still some excitement, but the battle with the abundant Xuanlu just now was indeed very thrilling. Just as the two were looking back on the battle just now, a white diary with 5 big characters appeared in front of them. Suyuan's diary. Hey hey hey. What is this? March 7th approached like a curious baby, and before the star could catch her, March 7th had already planned to pick it up and take a look. Uncle Yang, come and take a look, what is this? March 7th exclaimed loudly. Walter Yang walked over and pushed his glasses on the bridge of his nose, saying, "What's going on? What's going on? Uncle Yang, look at this diary," it suddenly appeared. On March 7th, he spoke while his hand movements were also very exaggerated. Diary. What are you talking about on March 7th? I haven't seen any diary, said Uncle Yang, looking at March 7th and Xing in confusion. Xing and March 7th looked at each other, then at Uncle Yang, and finally reached a consensus in their hearts. That's because only the two of them can see this diary. Yang. Xing was about to say something, but he was covered in his mouth on March 7th. What's wrong? Walter Yang asked again. It's nothing, Uncle Yang. It's probably because the battle just now was too thrilling. We and Xing had an illusion just now, right? March 7th said awkwardly with a smile. Although Xing didn't know what the abacus was on March 7th, he still nodded. At the same time, somewhere in the Luofu immortal boat, Kafka also saw the white diary in front of her. A charming smile curved around her lips and she said, "It's really interesting, it's not in Elio's script." She took out her phone, and the screen showed the face of the silver wolf. Kafka, did you also see that diary? Of course, it's right in front of me now. This is not a 3D projection technology, it should be something we didn't expect, Silver Wolf said with a serious expression, completely different from the previous hacker's ease. Oh. Something that even Elio couldn't predict. I'm really getting more and more curious. Not only that, it seems that only you and I can see this diary. No, it should be said that the women on the train can also see it. Upon hearing this, Kafka frowned slightly and murmured, "Is it a diary that only appears in front of women?" At present, it seems so. I am fully investigating the relevant information of this diary. Within the Taibu Sea, Fu Xian, who had just finished commanding his subordinates, frowned as he looked at the diary in front of him. The subordinates saw that Fu Xian, who seemed to have everything expected of her, looked pale now. They thought that the disaster of the immortal boat was already the most serious in history, but they didn't know that Fu Xian was just stumped by the diary in front of them. Her Dian-Pour observation array can almost calculate everything in the universe, and if this diary were to appear today, she wouldn't be unaware. But now, this diary has indeed appeared, floating in Fu Xian's field of vision that cannot be ignored, and it seems that only she can see it. Yalolo 6, in the office of the Great Guardian. Blonia asked Sierre next to her, "Sierre, what do you think this is?" What she said was naturally the diary that suddenly appeared before her. Sierre spoke up directly and said, "Whatever it is, as long as everything that blocks us is eliminated, that's all." Upon hearing this, Blonia slightly supported her forehead. Although Sierre's answer was expected, she still hoped that Sierre could make a slight change. Just as everyone was at a loss for the diary that suddenly appeared in front of them, the diary suddenly opened as if it had come to life, and handwriting began to appear on it, as if there was an invisible pen writing. As a traveler, whether I succeed or fail, I believe it is my duty to record what I have experienced. Chapter 2. Ma Ho Shao Jiu Ai Sida, everyone is tense. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Crosser. It's really interesting. I wonder which world it comes from. Kafka thought to herself. For Kafka and their star hunters, the concept of a traveler is not unfamiliar. Elio has long told them that there are many worlds in the universe, and even parallel universes similar to them. Among them, there are also people or things from different worlds and universes who come to other worlds or universes under various factors. Therefore, Kafka is not surprised by the three words, traveler. As for diaries, it doesn't matter what you write. In that case, it's better to write about the people I meet. Let's first talk about Aida. It has to be said that Aida's busy figure on the space station is really charming. She is clever and capable, but also very lively and lovely. It's like the feeling of first love. And the clothes and personality that Aida is wearing really look like macaque soju. I now have some serious doubts about whether the planning of Bong Tai at that time designed Aida according to the style of macaque soju. However, if such macaque soju could make me a wife, it would not be a disadvantage. I would also be willing to live in a luxury house and drive a luxury car. At this time, the silver wolf who was tracking down the diary could not help sneering when he saw this sentence, and roast. The owner of this diary really doesn't suffer at all. You should know that Aida is the daughter of the major shareholder of Star Peace Corporation, which can be said to be the wealthiest organization in the entire universe. As the daughter of their major shareholder, Aida can be said to be one of the wealthy women. Those who want to pursue Esta, not to mention a galaxy, must at least travel from one end of the universe to the other. After all, who can refuse a girl who is both rich and young to be their wife? Even Xing couldn't help but laugh when he saw this sentence. The owner of this diary is really interesting. I dare say he and Sambo will have many common topics. Remembering Sanbona's almost smiling behavior, March 7 nodded and said, I really want the owner of this diary to go and play at Belleberg on Yalalo 6 if there's a chance. After listening to March 7, Xing also gave a positive evaluation, but she suddenly thought of something. Generally speaking, what is written in a diary is about recent events, and the people mentioned in the diary must also be people they have recently met. Since the owner of the diary first wrote about Esther, does that mean that she is currently near or at the Black Tower space station? However, this idea was quickly rejected by Xing, partly because the diary was not dated, which means it cannot be guaranteed that the diary was only recently written. Perhaps the gradual emergence of handwriting just now, like someone else writing, is just a characteristic of this diary. The second is that if the other party has a way to move quickly, such as their Star Dome train, they may have already left the Black Tower space station and cannot stay there. Moreover, the owner of the diary also mentioned at the beginning that he is a traveler. Although it is unclear what this traveler actually means, it should be similar to a traveler, so the owner of the diary will definitely not stay in a certain place for a long time. Xing has an intuition that if she could find the owner of the diary, she would discover an incredible treasure. However, Esther's perception of money is really not right. She thinks about buying 2 star destroyers to play with when she has nothing to do. Can she buy them and play with them casually? Even if the Black Tower space station has been attacked before, you can't keep talking all day. It's really scary. Thinking about it now makes your back feel a bit chilly. If you mess with this woman, she might be able to use laser bombardment on you. Personally, I can guarantee that there is absolutely no exaggeration in this statement, but I can't blame her either. After all, Esta threw out 200 million yuan of pocket money last time to deal with telecom fraud. It can only be said that poverty limited my imagination. The world of wealthy people is really incomprehensible. It would be even outrageous to put it on the blue star where I used to be. Is it true that my social class is too low? Level on March 7, I couldn't help but laugh when I saw this, but it wasn't for the owner of the diary, Suyuan, but for Aida. Hey, Xing, have you seen it? The owner of this diary is actually Esta, who used 2 billion yuan as bait to lure scammers before. I'm afraid the owner of this diary is not lying to us. How could there really be such an outrageous thing? March 7 kept tapping the nearby stars, while Walter Yang, who couldn't see anything, felt that it was a unique way for young people to relax. Xing supported her forehead, but she didn't expect a fourth person to know about it. Strictly speaking, apart from her as the party involved, no one would know about it, including Esther and the fraudster. She doesn't need to say much, the fraudster probably doesn't want to be arrested or imprisoned, and Esther is the least likely person. After all, everyone knows that Aida's ability to take care of herself is not very strong, and Alan is not only sent by her family to protect Aida, but also to see if there is any money spent recklessly by Aida. Star still remembers a while when Alan hid Esta's card everywhere to prevent her from buying a Star Destroyer, but it was still found by Esta. I don't know how Alan would react if he found out that Aida is using 200 million credit points as bait. I'm afraid Aida won't be able to get her card for at least 2 months, or even 6 months. I can only say that if I were that scammer, my brain would crash. If Esta really became my wife, I need to correct her money mentality. No matter how rich our family is, we can't spend it like this. However, there's no need to worry so much now. With Alan, this capable assistant, Aida shouldn't have done anything more outrageous yet. If I really marry Esther in the future, Alan probably will have to find another job. No, he still has to work as a bodyguard for both of us. After all, we always have to be foolproof. Since that's all for now, I have to go into detail about Esther's feat at that time. At this moment, Esther, who also saw the diary, was trembling with anger. She could never have imagined that there was a fourth person who knew about her dark history. Pink hair began to tremble, and her little face turned red, even bulging her cheeks, like a child who had been robbed of a lollipop. Fortunately, it seems that Alan cannot see this diary. If Alan sees it, he will definitely take away my card again. Esther thought to herself. She glanced at Alan, who was playing with Pepin next to her, and only breathed a sigh of relief after realizing that he had not noticed her unusual behavior. Chapter 3. Suyuan. You kid, I can't spare you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. No, I need to take a good look at what else is written in this diary and to what extent this person knows about me. She thought to herself. Esta can guarantee that she never followed anyone else during that time. Could it be that person became invisible? Impossible. The Black Tower space station has a very powerful detection system, and if someone is invisible, they will definitely detect it. Unless. Esther seems to have thought of something. Is he on the space station now? She almost blurted out. What's wrong, miss? Alan, who was standing beside her, asked after hearing Esther's voice. No, it's nothing, Alan, it's just me talking to myself, Ida quickly explained as she saw herself speak out. Alan asked with some disbelief, really? Miss, you were just talking about the space station, did you want to buy something again? No, I'm just talking about how long Black Tower will stay on the space station this time. Finally, with Esta's persistent explanation, Alan finally felt at ease. Esta breathed a sigh of relief, but it also made her more curious about the identity of the diary owner, and at the same time, more curious about this mysterious diary owner. Humph, the guy who peeks into someone else's privacy, you can't bear to let me catch you. Esther thought to herself. Speaking of which, it was a period of time since the Black Tower space station was attacked and began to recover. Suddenly, a mysterious figure suddenly spread inside the space station, which was the Fox Fairy Daiqing from the Luofu immortal boat. It can be said that this Daiqing fairy was completely captivated by the male fans inside the Black Tower space station for a while. Many people generously donated money to help this poor girl. If it weren't for later handling this matter with Ista and Xing, I seriously doubt whether these bachelors would have organized a fundraising campaign. Fox Fairy Daiqing. After hearing the name, Fu Xian frowned slightly. She remembered that a subordinate had previously reported a suspected fraudulent account, which seemed to be called Daiqing, but later disappeared without a trace. Is it a coincidence? Of course, my sharp wife Esther couldn't have been unaware, but she also knew that it would be useless to investigate or ask the space station staff to stop this kind of assistance openly. After all, a group of old bachelors can't stand encountering such a beautiful fox fairy who talks good things to you every day. Of course, besides me, I am loyal to my wives. When Kafka saw this paragraph, she couldn't help but laugh. The previous second, she was still saying that she would never be deceived by the lie of the beautiful fox fairy, and the next second, she would use a wife. It must be said that the owner of this diary is a bit childish. In order to perfectly solve this matter, Esta's wife naturally found a versatile tool, Xing, to help her investigate. With Xing's efforts, she also became a friend of this beautiful fox fairy and successfully started chatting with her. I won't say much about the content of their conversation. My only roast is that there is no need to write about the plot planning. It's an old routine like selling tea. This routine is not used by cheats in Blue Stars. It works again in Luofu ferry boat. I can only say that when I see it here, there are only two words. Lost thief. Very lost thief. Too lost thief. And I can only say that the fraud technique of this beautiful fox fairy is really rubbish. Just a few words ago, I was about to sell tea to Star, which is still the kind of tea with exorbitant prices. I seriously doubt whether the space station staff threw their brains into the trash can while chatting with the fraudsters. Next is the most shameful moment for the thief. My wife, Aida, directly transferred 200 million credit points to Star, saying it was directly transferred to this fraudster. After doing so, Xing received only one roast from the swindler. Are you crazy? To be honest, if I were a fraudster, I would also be confused. Did I just rob Interstellar Peace Company? Just give it 2 billion yuan. And for these 2 billion yuan, my wife Asda's explanation turned out to be just pocket money. Oh my god, whose family's pocket money is 2 billion yuan? Xing and Esta carefully looked at the contents of the diary. In addition to what they had just seen, the diary even drew some illustrations and other descriptions. Xing was almost skeptical that her memory was not working properly. She now seriously suspected that there was someone invisible beside her looking at her. On March 7th, she paid more attention to the content in her diary and grabbed Xing's arm, quickly asking, hello, Xing, please tell us if this is true. Can Esta really be so bold? And also, what is that beautiful fox fairy? Please tell me more about it. And there's also. The problem of March 7th is like a meteor shower, hitting Stars all over the head for a moment. Don't worry, I'll talk to you slowly in the future, Xing quickly said, throwing away the hand that kept shaking his body on March 7th. But before that, do you think there would be someone on March 7th who could peek into others' memories or sneak around unnoticed? After thinking for a moment on March 7th, he said, I think so. After all, this universe is so big, and as pioneers, we all have many things that we can't eat. Listening to the answer from March 7th, Xing couldn't help but pat his forehead. If I had known she shouldn't have asked the question of March 7th, what's the difference between not answering it? However, when it comes to the question of whether someone is lurking around them, Xing can confidently guarantee that there is no one left, and only the last one is someone peeking into his memory. And for this point, the first thing that Stars think of is the memory palace, because only they know their own memories. If anyone can write to this extent, then besides the memory palace, Stars can't think of any other reasonable explanation. But what benefits does this have for them? After thinking for a while, Xing received a negative answer. Star impatiently scratched his own hair. The feeling of being seen through by unknown people was as if he had been stripped naked, and he was completely unaware. At this moment, in a corner of the universe, the silver wolf sat on a chair with a tired face. She almost used all the means she could, even ventured into the system of the Genius Club, but had no clue about this diary. This diary and its owner seemed to appear out of thin air in this universe, nowhere to be found. Silver Wolf looked at the contents of the diary again, including some other scattered ones, and this diary wrote a full 2,000 words. A large part of them are roast from the diary owner, and the tone of this roast is like he sees these things from the perspective of God. Chapter 4. Is the broken iron world fake? The female leads. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This made Silver Wolf feel a little strange. If she had the perspective of God and could expand her experience to such a large extent, she would never just complain about the rich woman. And the feeling of the diary owner doing this is as if the whole world is insignificant to him. This inevitably reminds Silver Wolf of a philosophical question he had read before. Is the world he lives in really real? But of course, Silver Wolf has no clue or even no interest in this kind of problem. If she had known she had spent so much time without any gain, she would have preferred to continue playing games. Even a traveler may not have such a deep understanding of our universe, Silver Wolf said somewhat regretfully. The content in the diary is like high-dimensional creatures talking about things about low-dimensional creatures. They are only shocked by the strange logic of low-dimensional creatures, but they know everything about them very well. The only explanation that Silver Wolf can think of for this is that the original world of this traveler must have some connection with their universe, but they can't think of anything else. As one diary finished reading, the next second the diary disappeared out of thin air again, as if it had never appeared before, but in everyone's memory, it did indeed exist just now. Xing, do you think the things mentioned in this diary are reliable? Although the story is indeed quite interesting, we still don't believe it. March 7th touched his chin and pondered for a while, saying. Just as they were entwined with the stars on March 7th, a voice suddenly appeared in their minds. Ding! Detected that the person closest to the diary owner is Aida. Congratulations to Aida for becoming a browsing reward recipient, ding. The browsing reward has been released, please check it carefully, name. Family connection, disposable, function. For each damaged item, the holder's damage is increased by 30%. Introduction. A fugitive claimed to have obtained a family knot by opening a strange box, and mistakenly entered a family gathering where he believed in harmony. He described seeing an unprecedented scene. The will of the stars was connected to each other, twisted into a knot. Under the family knot, people opened their eyes, smiled, and their expressions were astonishingly consistent, looking at each other. When he asked questions, thousands of people in the lobby looked at him at the same time and spoke the same voice. Welcome. The fugitive immediately felt horrified, and in the end, in order to survive, he had to open his eyes and smile. Ding! The browsing reward has been distributed to Aida through ideology, and Aida can summon and use it at any time through her own thoughts. The same voice appeared in the minds of those who saw this diary, but what they didn't expect was that there would be rewards after reading the diary, and only the person closest to the diary owner had them. For a while, most people began to envy Aida's good luck. After all, this browsing reward was a miracle. You should know that strange things are rare in the entire universe. Although each strange thing has a different purpose, some can even be said to be very strange, but the purpose of each strange thing has some rules and attributes. Smart people all know that as long as it is contaminated with some rule attributes, even in the ability of garbage, it will have a revolutionary impact. But jealousy comes from jealousy, and most people still don't want to be exposed in diaries like Elsa. You should know that this is exposed in front of a lot of female compatriots. If the diary owner always likes to write about these social deaths, it would be embarrassing to throw them into the whole universe. The most direct way to avoid social death and still receive rewards is to find the owner of this diary. For a while, finding Suyuan became a consensus among everyone. Not to mention how much Suyuan knew about these things, just having browsing rewards was already enough to attract people. That's a strange thing. There are very few people in the entire universe who discover strange things, and even fewer people who can possess them. Who wouldn't want to be one of those few people? Yalalo 6, Bellowberg, in the office of the Great Guardian. At this moment, Shir had already sat on the chair and burst into laughter, saying, "Ha ha ha, this Aida is really interesting. She used so much as 200 million as bait." Meanwhile, Blonia saw another point on the side, which was Esther's financial strength. If they could connect to the line of Aida, it would be an unprecedented assistance for Bellowberg. The former Bellowberg was under the protection of the Interstellar Peace Corporation, but now under the influence of the Antimatter Legion in the core, Bellowberg and the Interstellar Peace Corporation are in a state of disconnection. These are all things Blonia learned from past historical materials and from the exploration team. If Blonia's guess is correct, Star Peace will definitely come to them again in the near future and hope to bring Belloberg back under the protection of Star Peace. But is that really good for Belloberg? This is an unknown number, or in other words, the risk is still too high. Now Belloberg has overcome the crisis of the star nucleus, and it can be said that there has been initial recovery in all aspects. Although survival is still the goal, it is ultimately good. In fact, Blonia already had an answer in her heart. Instead of becoming a pawn for others to exploit, it would be better to try to break through a world through her own efforts. But this does not prevent Belloberg from seeking other collaborators. However, currently Belloberg is still in the recovery stage, and in order to establish a relationship with Aida, we still need to wait for Belloberg to recover for a period of time. At this moment, Suyuan, who had finished writing his diary, moved his slightly sore wrist and looked at the densely packed masterpiece in front of him, saying, not bad. I have finished writing today's diary. He glanced at the system prompt and found that it was just over 2,000 words. Ding! Congratulations to the host, the task has been completed. Task rewards have been distributed. Please check your account carefully. Suyuan clicked on the lottery interface, and the originally 0 number of lottery draws had indeed become 1. If it were Suyuan from a previous life, he might have saved up lottery opportunities and then drew again, but now he is a systematic person, and how can he survive in this dangerous universe without any strength? Without hesitation, Suyuan clicked on the lottery, and the next second, he appeared in a vast starry sky with 3 different doors in front of him. The first is the gate full of different world elements, which symbolizes the world of Genshin Impact. The second path is full of a sense of technology, making people feel like they have come to the future in an instant, symbolizing the world of collapse. The third path is a twisted starry sky, symbolizing the world of shattered iron. Chapter 5. Suyuan escaped. Reward the void of 10,000 collections. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Surprisingly, it's a multiple-choice question or a 1 out of 3 choice question, which is quite difficult for Suyuan, who has difficulty making choices. You should know that the power of these 3 worlds are different factions. The world of the Genshin Impact is more inclined to magic, the world of the Broken 3 is more inclined to technology, and the world of the Broken Iron is more inclined to truth in the universe, that is, rules. He only has 1 chance to draw the lottery now, and he must be able to draw a lottery that can ensure his survival ability while also ensuring the probability of successful draw. This is a very difficult choice. He didn't think much further. After all, the system may not be guaranteed like a game, so he decided to randomly choose one. Suyuan's hand just reached out to the 3 doors, but they instantly merged into one. At this moment, the system's prompt sound also sounded again. Ding! The host level has been detected to be low, and we are unable to proceed with the designated lottery. Please have the host participate in a random lottery. Upon hearing these words, Suyuan smiled in his heart. He was still worried about whether he would draw something else and thought about which one he should choose, but now these 3 worlds are mixed together. This is like 2 equally strung-up characters, but you only have 1 guarantee, and now these 2 card pools are directly mixed together. Suyuan no longer hesitated, but pushed open the door with his hand. In an instant, a golden light emerged from behind the door. He thought to himself, is this my money? Single withdrawal of funds. This is a situation that he, as the European emperor in his past life, has never encountered before. I'll strangle it, that's great, isn't it? When Suyuan thought this way, the strong golden light in front of him made him unable to open his eyes. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the first divine key. Void Manzo, replicated version, ... As the strong golden light in front of Suyuan gradually disappeared, he also withdrew from the starry sky just now, but suddenly a golden hexahedron appeared in his hand. He looked at the thing in his hand incredulously. You know, this is the first divine key in the 3 worlds of collapse, hidden in the void. In the world of Collapse 3, the Void Manzo is a weapon made by the previous generation of Dr. May based on the core of the first law and the law of reason. It is typically a golden hexahedron and can be transformed into a fluid. Weapons and items that can replicate the user's understanding of the construction principle are similar to the divine key, but the replicated divine key is far inferior to the true divine key. Internally, there is an almost infinite extension of knowledge space, which stores the knowledge of the previous generation's civilization collected by the law of reason. These knowledge are preserved along with the core of the law of reason due to the special ability of the law of reason. That is to say, in theory, Void Manzo can replicate all weapons, but now that Void Manzo is systematic, it may even be possible to replicate the weapons of the Star God. The weapon strength replicated from the ontology of Void Wanzang will be greatly reduced, and as a replicated version of the system, it naturally falls short of the true Void Wanzang, which Suyuan was not surprised by. But what made Suyuan happy was that this Void Wanzang had no self-awareness, and his eligible person had automatically become Suyuan, so there was no need to worry about other issues. He looked at the void in his hand with joy, then his mind moved. In the next second, the golden hexahedron in his hand turned into liquid, and then condensed again, transforming into the shape of a big sword. The black and white barrel of the gun, the gilded barrel, and the red core of the lawyer are embedded in the safety latch. The sword emits high temperatures, as if it can burn everything. This is the heavenly fire holy cutting made by the core of the flame law, but what Suyuan has in his hand is just a replica. Although it is a replica, Suyuan can still feel the powerful energy inside. After testing the ability of Void Manzo, Suyuan had a basic understanding of his Void Manzo. It can only be said that the Void Manzang in my current hand is only a replica of the Void Manzang in the Collapse 3, and some weapons in the Collapse Iron cannot be replicated. But this is also good, at least Suyuan now has the ability to protect himself. Alas, as long as you write a diary, you can draw a prize, and there is still such a reward for a single draw. The system is really great. Suyuan thought so. But soon he felt something was wrong. After all, there wasn't even such a good system in online articles, and Suyuan couldn't help but doubt whether the system would backtrack him. Just as he was thinking this, he suddenly received a text message from his colleague. Suyuan, where are you? Fish fishing, what's up? Don't touch the fish, I just saw Ms. Aida searching for you all over the space station. Please find a place to hide quickly. Ah. Why does Esther come to me when she's free? I don't know, but I think Ms. Aida's temper seems to be very bad. You should seek your own blessings. Suyuan immediately reacted upon seeing this. This is the backstab of the system. Although he didn't know exactly what happened, Suyuan always had a feeling that his diary was being peeked at. Now, coupled with Esta's performance, Suyuan had no doubt that Esta had already seen his diary, but he didn't know if anyone else had seen it except for Esta. Without much time to think, Suyuan grabbed the paper and pen next to him, quickly wrote a resignation letter, and then stayed in place and ran towards the cabin section with the aircraft. Being exposed to such a secretive situation by others, even Aida would definitely not let Suyuan go, so the top priority must be to leave the Black Tower space station first. On the other side, Aida was eagerly searching for Suyuan, but when she arrived at the place where Suyuan often fished, she found no trace of Suyuan, and there was a letter beside her. Dear Miss Aida, thank you for taking me in at the Black Tower space station during this time. I have had an unforgettable time here, but the man has aspirations and aspirations. My dream is the stars and the sea, so please forgive me for leaving without saying goodbye. If fate permits, we can also meet in the vast universe. Looking at the reason for Suyuan's resignation in the letter, Aida's anger instantly subsided. What man has aspirations and aspirations in all directions? I just want to escape, and what I said was so grandiose. Since the diary owner is closest to her and in the space station, she must be a staff member. Most of the people on the space station are very familiar to Esther, so the first person she thought of who could write a diary when she came to her senses was Suyuan. After all, Suyuan has only just entered the space station recently, and Esther doesn't know anything about him. It can only be said that he is the only one who writes diaries. Humph, since you know something like me, do you think I would easily let you go, Suyuan? Esther gritted her teeth and said. Of course, Esther did not choose to make Suyuan a wanted target for the space station. Although doing so would save a lot of trouble, it also indicates that she is looking for Suyuan as a person. Since I can see Suyuan's diary, does that mean that others can also see it? If someone finds Suyuan, it would be a big loss. One of the reasons why Aida approached Suyuan was naturally why Suyuan knew about his own situation and gave him a lesson, and of course, a more important reason was about the strange things. What kind of secret does Suyuan have? Why would there be something strange as a reward after reading his diary, and where did his strange thing come from? Esther was filled with curiosity about Suyuan for a moment. Chapter 6. The Women's Surprise. Not in the space station. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At this moment, Suyuan was lying inside the aircraft. After all, most of the aircraft did not have the same speed as the Star Dome train. And Suyuan himself does not know the high-end operation of space jumping, which destined this to be a long journey. Fortunately, the aircraft has an autonomous navigation system, so as long as the target is set, it doesn't need to be piloted by itself all the time. He glanced at the time and found that it was already the next day, and at the same time, the sound of the system rang out again. Ding! Today's goal. 2,000 words, task reward. One chance to draw a prize. Suyuan felt a bit amused when he saw the task panel of the system. What he didn't expect was that today's task was the same as yesterday. And it's still 2,000 words. This reminded Suyuan of the days when he once wrote online articles on Blue Star, as if someone was paying him a daily fee. He thought for a moment, and a white diary appeared in front of him. Suyuan picked up a pen and started writing. At the same time, Xing and March 7th, who had just finished washing up, saw the diary in front of them again. They didn't expect to see the diary so early today. After seeing the power of the Fengrao Xuanlu yesterday, Yuan and Xuan decided to temporarily avoid the sharpness. After all, after listening to Walter Yang's terrifying recovery power on the Fengrao Xuanlu, there was nothing they could do for a while. And this is also the first time that Star has witnessed how powerful the power of the Star God is. Such creatures can no longer be described as terrifying. Although I don't know how many people can see this diary, I want to say it out of politeness. Good morning, everyone. Silver Wolf, on the other hand, had a drowsy glance before speaking. Since then, after Black Tower had deleted all of her game data, she had to pass the level again. Therefore, she had been busy for several consecutive nights. If it weren't for the sudden appearance of the diary, it is estimated that Silver Wolf is still sleeping soundly. He's quite a polite guy, Silver Wolf said, and then closed his eyes, as if he had fallen asleep. Today is my first day sailing in the universe, and I have to say that the vast starry sky is indeed great, but looking at it for a long time can give me a feeling of loneliness, which is really annoying. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but think of a pair of lovers I met on the Black Tower space station. Perhaps fate is unfair to everyone, and this is the so-called fairness of fate. At this time, people's minds were filled with doubts. It was clear that yesterday was a roast master, but today they started to emote. What a fickle person. Since the atmosphere has reached this point, let me tell a story about my colleagues on the space station, and this story Star should also know. Upon hearing these words, Xing couldn't help but wonder why he was one of the things mentioned by the diary owner. His name is Rocky, and he is an ordinary staff member in the Black Tower space station. His only hobby is writing some poetry, although he writes some cheesy love poems, which often makes me goosebumps all over. I even have a headache for a long time about whether to use black hair silk or white hair silk. As someone who hasn't been in a relationship before, I can only guarantee that I don't understand. As for the person he likes, it's called Leslie. He often calls her Lily. Personally, to be honest, it's really cheesy. Leslie is a star member of the Haida Yuan mysterious scrolls and the only visiting scholar of the Amber Age to travel to the abundant star realm. If described in 4 words, I can only say that she is young and promising. Looking at Rocky again, although he can't be said to have achieved nothing, he is still a bit far behind Leslie. To be honest, I am a bit curious about how Leslie likes Rocky. Can it be said that the smarter a woman is in love, the lower her IQ will be? I can't understand. But if that's the case, wouldn't it be much easier for me to pursue people like Aida or Xuan in the future? Hee hee. Aida is so cute and lovely, Xuan is small, just thinking about it is a beautiful thing. Shameless. Upon seeing this sentence, Xuan immediately spoke out and the next second caught the attention of the other members of the Tai Bu Si. What are you looking at? Keep working, Xuan said immediately when he saw that he was being noticed. However, there were still those who were not afraid of death who approached, such as a Miss Qingke who loved to fish at work. Qingke approached Xuan in a blue dress, revealing her long, pure white legs under her short skirt hem. Lord Taibu, the owner of this diary, clearly shows interest in your elderly family. Why don't you express it? Fu Xianbai glanced at Qingke and said, Qingke, it seems that I haven't given you enough work yet. I didn't even have the intention to play Yuqiong cards and tell me about it. If that's the case, have you seen the files there? Go and handle them. After hearing Fu Xian's words, Qingke was immediately dumbfounded and quickly said, Don't be angry, old man. I'll go to work now, really don't need to arrange other work for me. Qingke has strong abilities, but she can't resist Fu Xian's constant work. Humph. Fu Xian snorted coldly. For her subordinate who loves to fish, besides not being able to solve Qingxue's love for fish, she could really cure her. Ah, a good junior, why don't you know how to make progress? Fu Xian sighed. Qingxue's work ability is not average strong. Every time Fu Xian hands her work, she can complete it at the fastest speed and then run to fish. This is also why Qingke often fish, but Fu Xian never thought of driving her out of the Tai Bu Sea. After all, there are not many good seedlings like this now. Looking back at the mysterious diary, Fu Xian remembered what Suyuan had written. At this moment, Fu Xian could only define the owner of the diary in 2 words. Abnormal. I am an immortal who has been living for 300 years, but the owner of this diary actually wants to pursue me and even says that I am small. Is this not a pervert? What is it? To sum up, although these 2 people may not be considered talented and beautiful, they are still a perfect match for each other. If the 2 of them have a smooth relationship, according to my calculations, they can get married within 2 years, have a child within 3 years, and even have a second child within 5 years. Mad, it's really frustrating to think about it. Why isn't it my turn to live such a happy life? Hill couldn't help but exclaim upon seeing this, it seems that Rocky and Leslie should be a beautiful love story. Upon hearing this, Blonia said with great interest, Is Sierre very interested in these love stories? P.S. Looking for flowers and evaluation tickets. Chapter 7. Suyuan reveals the touching scene of iron collapse. Across. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Upon hearing these words, Hill's cheeks immediately turned red and he stuttered, There are many booksellers in the lower city area, and sometimes they sell stories like this. How could she possibly show interest? Isn't that how Blonia felt like she had caught her handle? Blonia did indeed smile, looking at Sierre's proud and coquettish appearance, she already had an answer in her heart. She thought to herself, I didn't expect Sierre, who is usually so domineering, to have such a lovely side. At the same time, inside the Black Tower space station, Aida looked at the diary in front of her and became even more convinced that the owner of the diary was Suyuan. But she doesn't intend to reveal this news, after all, who would let go of the fact that reading a diary can provide rewards. Of course, Aida will not reveal Suyuan's identity to increase her competitors. At this moment, Kafka smiled and said, "The owner of this diary is really childish. He not only wants to have a life of supporting others, but also wants to have a happy life full of seeds and grandchildren. Isn't this just a fantasy?" Although embracing the right and embracing the left may not be a contradiction from a certain perspective, it is definitely not an easy task to achieve. If we insist, only people like emperors can enjoy such a life. At this point, the reversal comes, and I forget which great philosopher said it. Even today, I still feel that this sentence is full of reason. Fate always likes to play tricks on people. In your happiest moments, it is very likely that you will lose everything the next second after Loki confessed. He didn't receive a reply from Leslie for a long time, which even made him almost have the idea of giving up. Fortunately, this kid is an indestructible Xiaoqiang, and later he never thought of giving up. I have to say that I admire his perseverance. When the star saw this, he couldn't help roast. Do you still envy others' perseverance? I'm afraid the whole universe can't find a second one with your courage. In front of so many women openly chatting up and showing love, Xing suddenly thought of animals. That's right, animals, only animals can do this. By the way, Xing, the owner of this diary said you should also know about this matter. Do you really know about Rocky? Upon hearing these words, Xing fell into contemplation and remained silent. Bernard naturally told her the story, but at that time, Star did not choose those two letters because Star did not approve of changing the fate of others just because of her own thoughts. Therefore, she did not make a choice and just left in confusion. At that time, Rocky thought it was Leslie who didn't reply to him, but in fact, it was just Leslie's reply that someone took away. As for who it is, naturally it is Bernard, the teacher who loves Lodge. Hey! Xing, look. This person named Bernard actually took someone else's letter, which is the letter from his favorite student's girlfriend. This is simply shameless. Next time we return to the space station, if we encounter that old guy, we will definitely beat him up hard. March 7th gestured to the air in front of him, while Xing just shook his head and whispered, "Sometimes, lies are to prevent others from getting hurt." Xing, what are you saying? I didn't hear clearly just now. It's nothing, I said wait until next time. Xing did not provide an explanation. She believed that since the owner of the diary knew about Loki's situation, she would definitely reveal the truth in the diary. Although there were indeed some issues with the transfer station, our versatile tool, Human Star, still caught Bernard through surveillance after repairing the transfer station. To be honest, if I were Bernard, I might have done the same thing. Sierra said with some indignation, What? What does it mean that if someone does the same thing, it's not a good thing in principle? People who do wrong should apologize and accept punishment. Blonia shook her head and said to Sierra, it's better not to draw conclusions about certain things without knowing the whole picture. Rocky, this kid is proud in love and disappointed in the workplace. He collects heart-shaped stones every day for Leslie and is also ignorant all day. But that's okay, but as I said, fate is willing to play tricks on people and is also cruel. A star shock occurred in Leslie's fertile star field. Although as long as protection is in place, the star shock will not cause physical harm to the human body. However, the gravitational collapse caused by stellar tremors can cause significant changes in the spatiotemporal curvature of the star domain. For example, the time in Leslie's star field used to be a straight line, just like the time in our star field. But now, under the influence of gravity collapse, it has become a huge canyon, which is a curve. So this is very obvious, because the length of the curve is always longer than the straight line, so the time curve of her star domain, when converted to our time straight line, will cover several times the length. This means that our time flow rate is not consistent with Leslie's time flow rate. Sheer looked at it and asked somewhat bewildered, Hey, Blonia, what is this kid talking about? What curve and straight length? Isn't it time? Why did it turn into a line again? Blonia sighed and explained helplessly, the meaning is that it has been a day since Leslie's place, and it may have been a year here. I'll go. Is it so magical? Do you think this star shock will happen here? I heard from the trailblazers that our place seems to be called Arlillo 6 planet. Blonia ignored Sierra's question and began to ponder. Two people in love, but in different worlds at different times, this can be said to be the cruelest thing in the world. If it's a physical distance, even at the ends of the earth, as long as two people work hard, they can still overcome it. Even if it's a separation of life and death, the other party will basically remember their beloved in their hearts, or start a new life, or be decadent for a lifetime. But this situation is different. You and your crush are in different time and space. When you are already half immersed in the yellow soil, or even dead, she is still in her best years, and even your confession to her may only be yesterday in her world. Since the occurrence of the star shock, the time difference between Leslie and us has gradually widened. Rocky sent her a letter, but Leslie's reply time could change from 1 month to 1 year, 10 years, or even 100 years, and this is irreversible. P.S. Looking for flowers and evaluation tickets. There is no data at all, please give me some motivation. Chapter 8. Tearful Women. Successfully emo all. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Not only that, it's not just Leslie's reply, but any of her activities are like this. Before she leaves the star field covered by abnormal gravity, every month she travels in the Milky Way will become decades of waiting for us. If Rocky, including us all, lives at a time like the present, then relatively speaking, Leslie has already lived in the future. Moreover, Leslie also agreed to Lodge's confession. If Lodge knew the truth, what would he do? His whole life would be dedicated to someone he would never touch, which is a very cruel thing. If there were a love god in this universe, I think he would not allow such a thing to happen. Upon hearing this, everyone took a deep breath. Suyuan is right. This is really a very cruel thing. Two stars are tightly interdependent, but they can never physically touch each other. Even if they are lucky enough to communicate with each other through information, it will only increase their own pain. At this time, March 7th also realized that what he had just said was somewhat serious, and even misunderstood Bernard's meaning. This is really cruel. If we tell Loki the truth, all he can do is wait for a message for more than 10 years, and then live alone. I have come into contact with Rocky, and his love for Leslie surpasses everyone I know. But what surprised me was that Rocky doesn't seem to know the truth yet, let alone what Leslie's reaction is. Regardless of the perspective, I think this is a very good thing. At least Rocky's life is still full of hope. Although he is still ignorant all day, his eyes are full of a light called hope. I don't know when Rocky will find out the truth, maybe in old age or middle age, but by that time Rocky must have achieved something. He is a talented person who can easily reach heights that others cannot reach with the same effort as his peers, but if he knew the truth, he could only live alone at this moment, waiting for the future, with Leslie, slowly walking towards him step by step. A person's life is so short that they only have one lover, and their life is so long that they live in waiting. Perhaps when Loki became an old man, Leslie finally returned to the Black Tower, but how should the two of them fall in love at that time? Sierra wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes and asked Blonia next to her, I still don't understand. Since Leslie can return to our current time as long as she leaves there, she just needs to come back quickly. Blonia shook her head and said, leaving aside whether Leslie has noticed the distortion of the time curve caused by the stellar tremors, even if she did, she has mentioned before that the time flow rates between us are different. Perhaps by the time Leslie returned with all her might, decades had already passed. Not to mention whether spatial transitions can still be used normally in an environment with gravity anomalies, even Leslie herself would have to spend a long time talking. In summary, no matter how Leslie tries, perhaps only with the help of the star god can she return at the fastest speed, and the best result is that at that time, only a few years have passed here. Upon hearing this, Sierra basically understood that without the help of the star god, Leslie could not have returned when Loki was still young. But how could a situation like what Blonia said happen? Leaving aside the immense mystery of the star gods, no one knows exactly where they are, let alone why did the star gods help Leslie. Even the most outrageous joyful star god Aha could not have done such a thing. When I write this, I feel a bit sad, perhaps because of the scenery. I am now in the universe, looking at these galaxies and nearby star fields in front of me. I don't know where such things happen. The world is so big that anything incredible can happen. Perhaps one day, some of us will be able to witness the ending of this love story, but no matter what, the final outcome will not be good. Oh, as I write, it becomes more and more emotive. Perhaps my homesickness has also deepened since I came here. Fortunately, before I came here, I was a single dog and not an only child, so some people took care of my parents. However, I don't know if I still have a body in my original world. If I do, it would probably be a dead person or a vegetative person. It's true that time travel has caused trouble for my family. Fu Xian smiled at this and said, he is actually a person with filial piety. She is an elder, and for them, parents are a very unfamiliar vocabulary. After being polished by time, Fu Xian has forgotten what her parents really were, and the past memories have gradually blurred in her memory. However, after listening to the story in the diary, she also felt a little sad. The most deadly thing for the Chongqing race is emotions. If the Chongqing race is good at speaking at the same time, but if they develop a liking for ordinary people, it is really terrifying. The theory of lifespan is an unsolvable topic, somewhat similar to the story of Lodge. If a long-born person develops a liking for a short-born person, even if they meet at their best, they will witness their aging and death, and bid farewell to their old friend with their own hands, which is very heartbreaking. Almost everyone sighed deeply. Rocky's story cannot be considered rare for the entire universe. As Suyuan said, the universe is very large, so stories like Rocky may have happened in some corner of the universe. Perhaps because of the strong sense of immersion, everyone unconsciously immerses themselves in the story, whether it's Rocky or Leslie. Everyone has different feelings, but without exception, they are all regrets. At this moment, Suyuan inside the aircraft let out a long sigh and retrieved the diary into the system space. Ding! Congratulations to the host, task completed, task rewards have been distributed, please check and confirm receipt by the host. This time, Suyuan did not choose to draw the lottery immediately, but lay flat and looked at the sky above his head. He sneered and said, I was really amazing for getting an emo from myself. At this moment, the void Wanzhong at hand suddenly changed. Suyuan stood up to examine and was completely shocked by what void Wanzhong had transformed into. P.S. Looking for flowers and evaluation tickets. There is no data at all, please give me some motivation. 1 monthly pass, 1,000 flowers, 100 review tickets, and 1 more chapter. Chapter 9. Diary is an unspeakable secret. Fu Xian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Suyuan looked at the constantly changing void Manzang at hand, and in the end, it turned into an artificial intelligence. Almost in an instant, all the information about this artificial intelligence appeared in Suyuan's brain. Unlike the original artificial intelligence of Void Manzo, this artificial intelligence is just a program without the ability to think for itself, and there is no automatic combat function. It can only be said to be similar to GPS and automatic control. It can be said that with this artificial intelligence, Suyuan only needs one command to control this aircraft at will. And this also means that Suyuan no longer needs a long wait and can freely use the space transition system of this aircraft. Without any hesitation, Suyuan immediately activated the space transition system. A black hole-like object appeared in front of the spacecraft, and the next second, the spacecraft arrived outside a planet. Yalalo 6 planet, also known as the first stop of Trailblazer. At the same time, Fu Xian, who was in the Tai Bu Sea, also arrived at the De Yanqiong observation array. After preparing the De Yanqiong observation array, Fu Xian immediately activated it. The next second, the originally quiet De Yanqiong observation formation immediately began to operate, and the obscure runes suddenly lit up on the ground. Fu Xian was also suspended in mid-air, his eyes tightly closed, and the precious pearl on his forehead emitted a faint light. At this moment, Fu Xian wanted to learn about Suyuan's situation through the De Yanqiong observation array, but she didn't have much hope. After all, although the De Yanqiong observation array was powerful, she knew very little about the mysterious diary. In such a situation, even the De Yanqiong observation array may not be able to calculate the relevant things. As expected, Fu Xian did not expect it. Even though she exerted all her strength, the radiance of the De Yanqiong observation array was almost at its limit. However, the De Yanqiong observation array still did not tell Fu Xian anything related. It is more accurate to say that the De Yanqiong observation array could not calculate it. The only known result is that this diary and its owner come from another universe, a more advanced universe than their own. Fu Xian stopped the operation of the De Yanqiong observation formation and sighed wearily, is it really useless? She returned to her desk and looked impatiently at the busy employees of the Tai Bu company. Although the Luofu immortal boat was in danger now, General Yuan had already taken corresponding measures, and the next stage was only the implementation stage. Fu Xian's level of curiosity towards the diary owner far exceeds his desire for strange objects. Although there are many things in the universe that cannot be calculated by the Great Yanqiong observation array, most of them can be understood. However, the Great Yanqiong observation array has also calculated the existence of such a traveler. Why is it that it is useless for this diary owner? If something goes wrong, there will always be demons. Fu Xian was certain that this interloper was not simple and could bring huge changes to their world. What can make Fu Qing so distressed? Can you tell me to listen to this general? Just as Fu Xian was distressed, Yuan walked out of nowhere. Seeing the expression on that stinky fart, Fu Xian felt even more distressed. It's not because of that diary these days, Fu Xian muttered. Oh. What diary? Let's listen to it. After hearing these words, Fu Xian was somewhat puzzled. Although Yuan may not be able to see that diary, at least he should be able to hear who would talk about it. Even if it's not good, someone will definitely say it. Of course. What is it? Fu Xiangang was about to say something, but suddenly a cool aura emerged from behind, as if a pair of eyes were staring at him. What's wrong, Fu Qing? Yuan saw something was wrong with Fu Xian and asked again. It's nothing, Fu Xian shook her head and said, thinking to herself, maybe it's an illusion. But when Fu Xian looked again and wanted to talk about the diary, the feeling of being stared at fell on her again. This time, Fu Xian could be certain that this was definitely not his illusion. She became dark and solemn, and both times she felt like she wanted to say something related to her diary, which means that whenever she said something about her diary, she would be targeted. And if I really say something about my diary, maybe I will really die. Thinking of this, Fu Xian became even more afraid, not because she was greedy for life and afraid of death, but because this was the Luofu immortal boat. The Star River Hunter is not a big deal, but there is still a force infiltrating now. Coupled with the third force mentioned by Yuan, the current Luofu immortal boat is really a mix of good and bad. Fucking. What's going on? Yuan clearly sensed something was wrong and asked again. Never mind, it's nothing. I'm tired from sitting here, so I guess I'm talking nonsense, Fu Xian shook his head and said. Fu Xian already knew that things related to diaries could only be told to those who could see them. If he were told to those who could not see the diary, he was afraid that the existence hiding in the dark would erase him. She considered herself to have lived for over 300 years and had witnessed various storms, but it was the first time she had seen such a strange thing. Just the sudden appearance of her diary was already outrageous. She was now next to Yuan, and the person hiding in the dark dared to emit a murderous intent, which Yuan had not even noticed. It is obvious that the opponent's strength is above Yuan's. Yuan is the top combat power of the Luofu immortal boat. If Yuan is not even aware, he may only need to use his fingers to destroy the entire Luofu immortal boat. And with this power, Fu Xian's first thought was of the star god. You should know that their Luofu immortal boat is not only powerful in itself, but also blessed by the star-hunting god Lan. Ordinary forces have no way to compete with them, and if we insist, only the anti-material legion in the current universe and the abundant believers are there. As for the court of memory, they are not interested in this kind of thing. Thinking of this, Fu Xian was once again afraid of the diary owner's strength. She could be certain that the diary owner had just traveled to their world, so it was impossible for them to have their own power in time. At this moment, GZ, who was on the development train, walked over to Pam with 2 cups of coffee and handed him one of them. Pam saw GZ walking towards her with coffee and said with some fear, "Pam is very busy now and doesn't drink coffee handkerchiefs." GZ smiled and then sat on the sofa drinking alone. However, as the coffee entered, GZ tried her best to control her expression. After all, it was the coffee she had brewed herself, and she had to finish it no matter what. P.S. Looking for flowers and evaluation tickets. There is no data at all, please give me some motivation. 1 monthly pass, 1,000 flowers, 100 review tickets, and 1 more chapter. Chapter 10. The Truth of Diaries. Suyuan appeared, really. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Pam, what do you think of that diary? GZ suddenly asked. What diary handkerchief? Is there anything strange on the train again? Pam asked in confusion. GZ was a bit incredulous when she heard this, but based on the fact that both Xing and March 7th could see this, she could basically conclude that only a portion of women could see this mysterious diary. And Pam existed on the Pioneer train from the beginning. To be honest, even GZ was not sure about Pam's gender, perhaps not even the diary, so Pam did not see that diary. It's nothing, just a few days ago on March 7th, she told me about the content in her diary. Oh. What? Is it the diary of a passenger on March 7th, Pa? Upon hearing this sentence, Pam suddenly became nervous. After all, before March 7th, he had done some strange things to it, if it were written in his diary. Cough cough, Passenger GZ, the conductor of this train kindly reminds you that it's not good to always pry into others' privacy. But this is what you said you wanted to show me on March 7th. The meaning of this train conductor is not to casually read others' diary handkerchiefs, even if they give you them. After speaking, Pam ran to the side with a guilty heart and continued to clean up. GZ put down the coffee in her hand, then her mind moved and a set of mini armor appeared in her hand. True Red Knight. Eclipse. This is the browsing reward that GZ received. She couldn't understand why she was the closest person to the diary owner. Even though she asked Pam to check if there were any flying machines or other life forms nearby, the result was that there were no life forms near the Star Dome train, not even any remnants of the flying machines. Name. True Red Knight. Lunar Eclipse, Function. Proficient in using physics and flame elements for mixed output, with extremely high flexibility. It can also apply powerful armor to enemies with high-frequency attacks, but at the same time, it will cause a certain load on the user. Introduction. The mysterious armor stored at the headquarters of Destiny, the Collapse Energy System Laboratory, Helheim, is the deepest part of the mysterious armor. As a standard equipment, the large sword unfolds like wings on its side, and the diseased gemstone on its chest bursts with a red flame. 10 fourth-generation god-slaying armor developed by Destiny are displayed on both sides, like a temple guarded by a knightly order. Its true body is a technological heritage of the pre-civilization era, led by Dr. Mei in the development of the unnumbered god key. The blank key, a dangerous armor that does not have a core, but can be connected to any core and release the power of the lawmaker. Unlike the ordinary God key, the concept is different, and the blank key will fully reproduce the full power of the lawmaker, but at the same time, the damage it will cause to the user cannot be predicted. After the 10th lawmaker incident ended, the blank key project was frozen and temporarily suspended. After recovering the blank key, Tianming launched a comprehensive development plan for the new generation of Valkyrie armor based on its technology. At the same time, they will also connect the core disease gem of the Flame Lawmaker, which has the strongest destructive power, obtained from the second collapse, with the blank key, making it a powerful weapon for the Lawmaker. The True Red Knight. Eclipse. Looking at the introduction above, Jeezy was convinced that it was definitely not something from their universe, but she had heard the word divine key vaguely in Walter Yang's mouth before, as if it was a weapon unique to some lawmaker in their world. Yalalo 6 Planet, Bellowberg. Ha, is this Bellowberg here? I'm glad I'm wearing an extra piece of clothing, but I didn't expect it to be so cold, Suyuan said, trembling. He was wearing a down jacket with a golden glow, which was another form of Void Musashi. Suyuan found on the aircraft that in addition to being able to replicate weapons, the system gave him Void Musashi many home functions, making it a must-have artifact for going out. At this time, the crisis of the nucleus of the planet Yalalo 6 has been resolved, preventing its demise. However, the influence of the nucleus is too strong, resulting in a large area of Yalalo 6 still being covered by ice and snow, which may take hundreds of years to completely eliminate. If it weren't for these heating devices, I would probably freeze to death. Speaking, Suyuan looked at the several heating devices next to him that were heating up. Due to Bellowberg's unique weather and climate, these heating devices were all placed outside, otherwise no one would be willing to come out, and the heating and other facilities outside would probably be covered in ice and snow. Suyuan took out a compressed biscuit and started eating it, which he found on the plane. Fortunately, it wasn't as bad as rumored. Just as Suyuan was preparing to have a peaceful meal, several fiery figures suddenly appeared around him, and it was the burning disaster shadows lingering here. Suyuan, who was already a bit tired, saw a monster disturbing him during his meal and immediately became angry. He was about to escape from the void of Wansong when a shell accurately hit a burning disaster shadow. "Sir, are you okay?" A beautiful voice drifted into Suyuan's ears. Suyuan looked up and found a beautiful woman standing behind him, holding a cannon that was extremely different from her figure. A head of blue short hair fluttered in the air, with rare red pupils in his eyes. Perhaps due to running too fast or the cold weather, his face turned slightly red. There was a small glass pendant on the zipper around his neck, similar to a beaker. His face was shaped towards that of a married woman, and under his white coat was a body wrapped in black silk, with graceful curves faintly visible. "Natasha." Suyuan couldn't help but say. "There's no way," as the first 4-star nanny I drew in the game of Bengtai, Natasha left a deep impression on him. Although it is a 4-star character, it has an amazing amount of milk and is essential for beginners in the early stages of transition. Natasha heard the other person say her name and asked incredulously, "How do you know my name?" "Well, we'll explain it later. Let's solve the current problem first." As she spoke, Natasha realized that her previous shot had already drawn all the fire and disaster shadows around her. Now, Natasha and Suyuan were surrounded by clusters of fire and disaster shadows. Natasha didn't expect so many burning shadows to gather in such a short time, and her heart couldn't help but feel a little nervous. With so many scenes of fire and disaster, she can't handle it alone. However, if she works hard, she can still fight to send Suyuan away from her side. P.S. Looking for flowers and evaluation tickets. There is no data at all, please give me some motivation. 1 monthly pass, 1,000 flowers, 100 review tickets, and 1 more chapter.